times more money today than it did in the 70s to sell food. They wouldn't be spending that if it didn't work. We've been supersized. We're eating a lot more. Food is everywhere. Ads for food have skyrocketed. Calories are dirt cheap. And I think if food's the cause, given the data on exercise, it's going to be up to food to be the solution. So the solution, what is it? Well, it's not actual dieting. We need to get away from the concepts of undereating and overexercising. I think it's thoughtful dietary reduction bolstered by physical activity. It's far easier to not eat 500 calories a day than to burn it, but maybe burning 100 to 200 calories a day by means of intentional, reasonable, achievable exercise will help bolster better healthy eating behaviors. I just don't think you can out-train a bad diet. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Dr. Friedhoff. So again, I've got a few very good insights, a few key things that we heard in this last 20 minutes. Some discussion about the free living world and the implications of that and obesity. I think Dr. Friedhoff did a really good job of talking about the real world experience with weight management. He also raised some other issues that are really important with obesity management. Compensation behaviors, so do people change their behaviors when you restrict their diet or you increase their exercise? He also raised the idea of weight maintenance. So what about, there's weight loss is one thing, but keeping off that weight loss is another thing. And then finished off with some really key messages about how we educate the public and how we message information. So now we're going to give a few minutes to each of the speakers to have a little bit of a rebuttal to what they heard from the other speakers. So we're trying to keep this to about 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, would we do the summary at the same time?
Yeah, so...
You want to just, I'll do the little rebuttal and then my summary, and then you can just finish with your summary and rebuttal?
Yeah, I don't have much rebuttal.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have a combined rebuttal and summary, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, and well done, Yoni. As always, a very insightful presentation. Although I was somewhat concerned because I was actually thinking you were going to present some data in your presentation that actually showed the benefits of caloric restriction to sustain weight loss long term. I actually didn't see any of that data, so we'll have to wait. Perhaps it comes in your summary. I guess I do escape and then. No, I think I can just this and then this and then this. Okay. Yes, of course. Yeah, just 2 or 3 points. You know, when you're a hammer, everything tends to look like a nail, as we say. So I might be selective in what I heard Yoni say today. But here are 2 or 3 things that I said. Now, I'd like to begin by lodging a bit of a grievance. I'm not so sure starting off by saying I'm coming in here on my anniversary and my wife's here and my 3 kids. I mean, I think that's a low blow to gain sympathy votes. That's unfair, I think. But seriously, good for you, Yoni. Congratulations. I also heard, and it seemed to be a concern, that these people exercised for a year, lost 3.5 pounds, improved cardiorespiratory fitness, improved lean muscle mass, decreased comorbidities, and somehow that was a bad thing. I think it's only a bad thing when you appreciate that the obesity mafia somehow propagates the notion that clinically significant weight loss has to be 5 to 10%. So, of course, being part of that mafia, my respected opponent would say, well, look, that was only 2%. That's not good. How many of you here, rhetorically, would love to see at the end of 1 year that someone engaged in physical activity, decreased 3.5 pounds, which is probably 4 or 5 kilograms of body fat, decreased waist circumference, The reason you have more body fat is you've improved skeletal muscle and you improve cardiorespiratory fitness. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, if we had that as an outcome, we would see in our time the prevalence of obesity actually go down. So while I agree with Yoni's observation, I firmly disagree with the interpretation that somehow that's not positive. That's extraordinarily positive. So I think the notion of clinically significant weight loss. The other thing that I think I heard, and perhaps my colleague will correct me, that the people that were exercising, it wasn't only because they exercised that they did well, they ate better. The more you exercise, the better you ate. Well, I'm going to have to rearrange my slide now that shows all those perfect things and show that eating better is another outcome of exercising more. So again, I was somewhat confused by my opponent because there was no data shown. There was an egregious attempt to gain sympathy votes. And he seemed to be saying that exercise was really good for you. But seriously, I think one of the points that, of course, Yoni made is that the data that I showed you, and now I start my 3 or 4 minute summary, the data that I showed you are the results of efficacy studies. We needed to do that because there was too many people in the world at the beginning saying exercise doesn't work, it's not a good strategy, give it up totally. When you're thinking about managing obesity, just don't think about exercise. I think we've turned that corner. Absolutely. And yes, we showed you efficacy results that come from laboratory studies, perfect conditions, ideal situations. We had to do that because that sets the stage for the effectiveness study. I will firmly disagree with my colleague and say that he's concerned about exercise. We don't have enough effectiveness studies. We get no funding. The nutrition mafia, in terms of CIHR funding, outdoes the physical activity 20 to 1, 30 to 1 in terms of dollars. Try and get money to do a good randomized controlled trial with exercise as your treatment strategy when you go to the RCT committee and you're up against all the pharmacology boys. That's really tough. So I would disagree there. We need more, and it is true, absolutely true, what Yoni implies. That it's one thing to get people to adopt a healthy lifestyle, and all of you in here know it's quite another to get someone to sustain that lifestyle. We have much to learn there. And there's no question, if you want to reduce weight quick, calorically restrict. You do that. And when you do that, we will see a profound increase in our obesity epidemic because you cannot sustain that either, and that's what the nutrition mafia failed to say. See how much easier it is. Look, you had to exercise 600 calories a day. Yes, that was an artificial condition, right? The guidelines say do accumulate it over the day. You don't have to do it in one time. We did it in one time because of the nature of an efficacy trial. So the truth of the matter is, I have no wisdom to share with you on how we're going to reduce obesity prevalence. Most of us believe that if we adopt physical activity combined with a healthy lifestyle, if we just maintain, if we stop the bleeding in my lifetime as a researcher, we will have done good. Because the truth of the matter is, there is no diet on planet Earth. And the last time I went to Chapters with my daughters, there was 262 diet books, all of them claiming that caloric restriction, you can lose weight. There's no doubt about that. And all of them weigh more within 12 months of starting. Exercise, not the same. You just don't get that rapid decrease. The truth of the matter is, I showed you this, and Yoni made reference to this, and of course I saved this for my rebuttal. There's not a study that we've reviewed that use exercise that wasn't combined with a healthful diet. It's just that as my dietitian colleagues, they've come to hate the word diet. Because diet means you reduce calories. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily eating better. So all of the people in our studies were eating better, and we know well that eating well is a cornerstone of obesity reduction, and I'm certain that Yoni and I agree with that 100%. I will say, though, with these, and I think my opponent referred to this, we've made a big deal over the years of trying to say that weight loss should not be the primary outcome of a study. Now, I know that that seems somewhat paradoxical because if weight goes up, obesity goes up, so weight should go down if obesity is going to go down. That's the prevailing wind, certainly amongst many Canadian researchers. But that's just simply not true, and that's what these studies have shown. And we've written much and speak as loudly as we can that obesity is not a behavior. Obesity is an outcome. And I think Yoni was implying somewhat similar. We've been trying to say that. It won't be the first time that we do that in healthcare. So yes, if someone is engaging in exercise and they don't lose weight, there might only be a 2-centimeter reduction in waist with an improvement in cardiorespiratory fitness and insulin. Give that person a hug. Embrace them. Tell them they've done good. They've succeeded in adopting the behaviors that on planet Earth are the best that we know of. We have no pharmacological evidence that says you could do better than behavior change. So we know behavior change is tough. So do away with the scale as the only indicator of success, and we will go, I think, a lot further than we are now. So I do believe clearly it's about lifestyle. If you think you can exercise and eat anything you want, you are clearly a foolish individual. Clearly foolish. I honestly believe that one day we will have in Canada healthy eating guidelines in concert with our physical activity guidelines, because that's the public health message. You can't do one without the other and gain the benefit of lifestyle. You will gain benefit of either, to be sure. But the reverse is also true. If you think you can follow the guideline and not be active and get the benefit, you are also equally foolish. So we do have to, in the end, focus on the behaviors. And that's been our biblical message for the last 20 years. I don't know why we have focused on the weigh scale as the only indicator of success. And I would submit of either well-balanced, dietary-induced obesity reduction or exercise, or hopefully, of course, the both. I don't know why we do that in Canada, but we do. We do, all the time. How many programs we have in Canada that we call healthy weights? Weighty Matters. We do that, all kidding aside, because that's what the public wants. Show me how to lose weight. That's what I want now. I don't care about the behaviors. And it goes totally against what we've done in the past. Yoni, certainly as a physician, knows that focusing on behaviors is not new. Right? 30, 40 years ago, where we had lung disease and lung cancer and cardiovascular disease was rampant, what was the very first thing that the CMA got together and did? I think it was the first thing. I wasn't there, but I suppose it was. Right? What did they do? They said, if we're going to do something about cardiovascular lung disease that is going on, we've got to focus on the behaviors. Can you imagine going into your doctor's office and saying, can you please manage my weigh my lung disease today? That's not going to happen. What do I mean with that absurd observation? We do that with obesity, do we not? Let me measure your weight today. You send them out from your practice out, you come back. What do you first say to them if the weigh scale does not give you what you had hoped? Oh, you panic. I'm generalizing now, right? And I know I'm editorializing, and I know I speak about this passionately, and I know I sing to the choir, but Canada doesn't get it. We don't. And we fail, and we see the prevalence coming up because of some of the things that were even said here today. We thought that was a fail. We're afraid of exercise studies that don't lose weight. Rubbish. Embrace them if they're exercising. Did you measure the behaviors? We know that cardiorespiratory fitness and that eating better are the two behaviors that cause obesity. We did for smoking. We did that. We looked at the behaviors. I know it's more complex for obesity. It's far more complex than it is for smoking. I understand that. But we don't do it. We don't do it enough in Canada, and we have to do it. And we can't say that being physically active and consuming a healthful diet is somehow, in the end, going to scare Canadians. What that tells us is you and I, we haven't done our job. We're not focusing on the causal behavior. So by way of summary, this is my last, second to last slide. By way of summary, I say there's 3 strategies. And the strategies that I have mentioned here all, of course, will reduce risk. And I clearly know that if you improve lifestyle and there's no change in these, the residual risk is probably greater than this.